everybody, welcome back to our show. This is the Cooking Chiro, aka Dr. Lisa Forzani. Great to see everybody. Today we are going to continue our series of the best comfort food. So of course we are going to be making banging grandma mom's meatballs, and can't wait to share this with you. So growing up in an Italian-Irish household, we always had Sunday dinners. It was such a great tradition that I will remember forever. Now, did we always want to spend a Sunday with a big pot of ragu sauce, which we'll talk about in a minute, and meatballs and sausage and chicken cutlets at our grandparents'? No, we wanted to be running around outside or all over my grandparents' house, or when they came over, we wanted to be playing with our dolls and our toys and everything else. But now I realize how fortunate and lucky I am that we had these wonderful traditions on Sunday afternoons. So I'm going to talk to you about my mom's banging meatballs. She passed that on to us, and we're so fortunate that my mom, who grew up in Little Italy in the Bronx, two Sicilian parents that were from Licata, which looks absolutely beautiful. I've been to Sicily but did not make it as far as going to their beautiful homeland. But here we go. We're going to make some of the best meatballs you've ever tasted. Okay, so now we're going to start putting our meatballs together. It's actually a very simple process, and I always have fun making it. You could squish it in your hands and take out your aggression on that meat. Oh yeah. So instead of using breadcrumbs, I actually made my own breadcrumbs today. We toasted up some bread that I had and put it through a food processor. So we're going to start with a cup or so of breadcrumbs with our 2 pounds of meat. I love cheese, you know that about me, so we're going to put an abundance of cheese. We're going to put about a cup of cheese. I'm not so used to measuring out something like this, so bear with me. We're going to take 4 eggs, because I like the meatballs to be nice and soft and tender. And we're going to put some salt, because we don't have salt in the breadcrumbs. So if you use Italian seasoned breadcrumbs, they are fairly salty, so be careful. So we're going to use about a teaspoon or less of salt, and then we're going to use about a teaspoon of pepper. And we're going to use some fresh parsley from our garden, of course, and some fresh oregano. And I also have some dried oregano, so about a tablespoon of dried oregano. If you only have the dried parsley, you could use a tablespoon of parsley. And then if you like onion in your meatballs, I do, you just finely chop the onion, about 1 onion, medium size, and about a tablespoon of garlic, because you know I love garlic. Now you can also use powdered garlic if you like, and if you're using seasoned breadcrumbs, then just be cautious about how much garlic and onion you use. Okay, and last but not least, a cup of milk. And now we get to squish around our meat. And notice I took my rings off except for one. This is my grandmother's wedding band. She was Sicilian, so I had to have her be in on me making these yummy meatballs because she was such a great influence on my life. And you just keep mixing it until everything is homogeneous. It's pretty easy. And if you find that it's too moist, then you could always put in more of your breadcrumbs. So I'm actually going to add a little bit more breadcrumb just so it holds the meatball together. But if you baked it like this, it would be so tender anyway. So we're just going to keep squishing around. So my mom would always talk about how her grandfather, who was from Sicily, would take in all the neighbors or anyone that didn't have a meal, and would always have them at their Sunday dinner so that no one went starving. That was always a very, very important part of their culture, was always having good food in the house and feeding and feeding. And my mom would tell me that she would constantly be fed by her grandfather because she was so skinny and so slender like her brother and sister. So they would always want to feed them because they always thought that, culturally speaking, the heavier you were, the thicker you were, it meant that you were more prosperous and were being fed well at home. So that is the squish. Okay, I like that consistency right there. And we're gonna make our meatballs next. So now here is the fun part. We took a piece of parchment paper, the organic parchment paper, in my beautiful clay pans that you know I love so much, and we're gonna start making our meatballs. So you're gonna just roll them, try to make them about the same size, because if you don't, what'll happen is some will cook a little faster than others. It's gonna take about 25 minutes to cook these, and you are going to cook them at a 375 or a 350 oven, depending on your particular oven. So you could also freeze meatballs. That's such the lovely part about meatballs. You cook them, put them in the freezer, in a freezer bag, and then you're ready to go for a meal anytime. And let me tell you something, nothing like homemade meatballs. Store-bought meatballs just don't seem to have the same flavor. Plus, you know you made them yourself, which is so great. So we're just gonna keep rolling these guys. We're gonna get them in the oven in just a minute. Growing up on meatballs was like the best thing ever. I love meatballs. My friends were always so thrilled to be at my house when my mom would be cooking homemade sauce and meatballs, and actually they pictured her just being this person that just stood in front of a stove mixing sauce all day, which was not my mom. She was, and always is, and still is, thank God, such a beautiful person that is just beautiful behind the counter cooking, but also is a great cook. So it was always such a thrill having my friends over, sharing all these beautiful meals with them, because not everybody cooks homemade food, but I'm trying to share with you how, you know, just with some really great, awesome ingredients, you could do this yourself so easily. You know, even cooking ahead, making meatballs, there's nothing better than smelling that sauce going as you're cooking your meatballs and sauce on a Sunday afternoon with the football game in the background. It's the best. So, the old controversy, is it sauce, is it gravy? You let me know. You tell me what you guys called it growing up. I know, coming from New Jersey, we all fight over it. It's either gravy or sauce, but I call it sauce. So I was kind of looking up the history of where that came from, and it seems like it came out around the 1970s, 1980s, where people started to fight about whether the ragu sauce and gravy. So I don't know, I look at gravy as something that goes over meat that's dark. And some people say no, if it has meat in it, in other words, if it is a meat sauce like a bolognese, it is called gravy versus sauce. But I just think sauce is sauce. So tell me what you think. In goes our meatballs. So now we are going to make our tomato sauce called pomodoro, and we're going to make it with just simply our tomato and vegetables, and we're going to use this sauce with our meatballs, and then we're going to save some of this sauce, and for our next episode, you just watch what we're going to do with our sauce. So here we go. First thing we're going to do is take 2 medium onions, chopped fine, and tell me that putting your olive oil, your extra virgin olive oil, and your onions together already, that is such a party. As that smell and that aroma gets through your house, it's just unbelievable. It starts to caramelize and just tastes so good and smells so good you can't even stand it. Then next, we're going to add 3 cloves of garlic. And we're gonna let that saute in very nicely. We're gonna put some of our fresh herbs. So I'm putting parsley and oregano and also a bay leaf. We're gonna just saute that together until our onions are clear. I put about 2 or 3 tablespoons of olive oil. If you like more, you can, because I'm making a huge batch today because we're gonna do a lot with this sauce. And that's the nice thing. I actually, hate to say this, but in this house, I actually let a jar of sauce come in because I got it for free for getting points at a store. And I tasted a little bit of it and it was just horrible. You know why? Because they put cornstarch and some type of sugar sweetener in it. And if you use great tomatoes, you don't have to do that. They're not bitter. They have a nice sweet flavor to them, these tomatoes. So try to use a better tomato. We're going to use canned plum tomatoes. They're from Italy. They are so much better than your store-bought sauces and everything else. And we're making a huge batch. So you're going to go with 6 pounds of sauce. And that's your canned tomatoes from Italy. So we're just going to let this saute for another minute or 2. And then I like to cook my sauce, simmer it for hours. You can make this and just simmer it for 2 or 3 hours if you have the time. And then you can make batches of this and freeze it, and you always have it ready and prepared for your next meal. Because the next meal we make, oh my God, it's gonna be so good. This one is awesome too though, don't get me wrong. All right, here comes our canned tomatoes. We're gonna just put them right in. And you could just hear them sizzle and just be so happy to be in there. We're gonna make sure we get all of our sauce. I know my grandmother used to put water in the can to get every last drop of that sauce in there. Plus it watered it down a little bit. And we're just gonna let this simmer. And then what I'm going to take is a smasher and break up these tomatoes so that they cook down really nicely and they're not too lumpy. I like a little texture to my sauce, but I know when I was younger I didn't. However, if you like a little texture to your sauce, depending on how you like it, you smash it a little more, smash it a little less, or you could put it through a food processor if you like a real fine ragu type of pomodoro sauce. But this smells so great, guys. I would let this simmer for at least a couple of hours on low. You could put a cover on it. Just make sure you mix it every so often so you're not burning the bottom. And what can I say? Bon appetit. Live well, love well, and eat well. So this is also a great base to spin this off into a nice meat sauce. So growing up, my parents used to make meat sauce. My mom was like amazing. She would put some red wine and just cook down some of the meat. Instead of having meatballs and sauce, you have the meat sauce. So she would cook down the meat, break up the ground beef, drain off the fat, and then put it into pomodoro sauce with about a half a cup of wine, which was decadent and delicious. So now our pomodoro sauce has been cooking for several hours and our meatballs are done. So we're going to put them into our sauce. So you want to just kind of drop them right in, and they're going to cook even more and absorb all that yummy sweet tomatoes flavor. So you're just going to drop them in and just let them sort of swim in that beautiful sauce. So now we're going to drop our meatballs into the sauce. And you could also cook up sausage and put this in, or brajol, which will be another one of our shows. Stuffed brajol. Everybody makes it a little different, but that's also a yummy favorite. And just let them swim in there and have fun and absorb all that tomato. So I just want to thank you all so much for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you next week for a new episode of Cooking Chiro, aka Dr. Lisa Forzani. Enjoy, live well, love well, eat well, and I hope you enjoy your meatballs. So to all my fans, don't forget to let me know which do you like better and which do you like to use better as calling your sauce or gravy. Is it gravy or sauce or gravy? Let me know.